Alright everybody, so it's Rob again, and I figured we could go over supporting this model and prepping it, so why not, right? So scale, first thing, it's too tall. So we want it to be 32 or 32 millimeters, right? And then we need to actually scale this to make sure that it is consistent with 32 millimeter scale models. So for scaling, what I do is a scaling check. So this is a 35 millimeter pillar. So what I'm going to do is scale it so the eyes are 32 millimeters high. So I want to make this 32. And then scaling wise, we're just going to increase this until her eyes match the height of the pillar. So she's still a little short, so 47. So we'll go with 46. Call it good. So there, now it's 32 millimeter scale, and we need to decide what orientation to print it in. So this model, like, you could easily print it in this orientation. You know, give her some tilt, but what's going to happen is the top of her breasts are going to show layer lines because they're circular and they're facing up, and there's printing that's going to end there, so you get layer lines across here. So one way to combat that is to spin it like this. I have found on the IB, the plate, remember this is your build plate, the plate facing side shows less layer lines, and that'll hide the layer lines in her hair and on here. But that's also not ideal because you have all these fingers, right? You have a lot of delicate stuff to support in this angle. Plus you get the legs at a bizarre angle. Well, this one's straight, but this one would then need supports on the front, and you don't want to support the front of the model. So this is one of the few cases where I'm going to invert it. I don't normally invert models because I don't like the top of the model being where the connection points are, because as you're looking at it, right? If you're holding the model looking at it, when you look down on it, you're going to see all those support marks and everything. But I think we can work around that on the Dryad because she is a very organic shape, and hide the supports in places where it won't affect the outcome. Okay, let's get dug in on this model and start supporting. So rafting, client likes shape, but I'm going to save the man some resin and go a little thinner and a little bigger. So what we want to do is look for our anchor points. So because this is inverted and these are all topside visible, I really don't want to anchor with a heavy because it'll probably leave a pit. So we're going to hide one here. And so, it's simple kind of engineering principles, right? Forces involved. You don't want it at an angle if you can avoid it. A straight support is going to be more rigid, pulling against this, than pulling against the bending action of that tip. And that'll give me a point to anchor a bunch of light mini supports to the model on the islands, like here, for example. Right? Nice solid anchor for that. Okay, so there's the head, anchor 1, and it's going to need another one back here somewhere. So we're going to put that somewhere hidden, like here. Again, we're going to drop it, move it over, and then maybe raise it back up a little bit. And we're going to need another one somewhere up here. This is pretty hidden from view, and a good spot to anchor it because there's a sort of an island there. but we're going to have to adjust where this sits. Alright, too far. And this needs to move. There we go. So that little bump should blend right into that. And we need one here. So I'll put one right there. So the thing is, these supports leave a tip, not a hole. So when you're doing it, right, that tip is going to be left in a easy to get to spot. You know, if somebody wants to clean it up to be perfect, just leave a little bump there, nick it right off. So now we get to the challenging part where, you know, cloaks, capes, whatever this is. Obviously you want to try to minimize any visible marks there. Not always possible. So we're going to use the same technique and bury it in one of these areas. Probably right here, but I don't need that. I'm just going to duplicate that one and then pull it over here. And then I'm going to move this a little to make sure that it's closer to centered. And then we've got, you know, support to the back, support there, support there. I feel like at this scale, this model might be good as it is, but because I don't want to waste other people's time, I'm going to drop in a couple more to ensure that it doesn't cause failures for him. And same thing as before, drop this and move it closer to where it should be. There, pulling straight-ish. I guess this one could, no, I want to leave that for the angle. So you got to think about too, the angle of the support tip, you know, perpendicular to the model is best for support removal and marking, but sometimes you can't do that. So we got support there. Okay, so from here, now I think the model is going to stay on the build plate, but I'm going to go ahead and ensure that it does on these kind of the bottom part where it extends out a bit. So to do that, we're going to look for the bigger islands and make sure that they have, yeah, like there. And then I think we're done with mediums now. So we'll go over the lights. And so then I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some lights here. And so this is going to be a challenge because these have to support quite a bit of, you know, all this before it gets up to there. Which means I am actually going to have to add a medium to this, I think. So I'm going to do on the back side of the model, and I'm going to hide it probably right here. Oops, I missed. There we go. It's already a bump and won't affect how it looks too much there. And this one, I think the rest of them, oh man, this model is detailed a bit. So we're going to take that. So this is a weird bug in Lychee that sometimes happens where it undoes things on accident. Anyway, so we want to move this support because it's too close, but I need to make sure, yeah, it didn't run into anything else. So now what we've got is this area supported, this flower supported, that flower is not. but it needs to be, so one right here. There we go. Add one in here. Ooh, man. Okay. Add one in here, but that's got to move. All right. We got some more up here. But before we get up there and start having trouble seeing what we're looking at because of the supports, let's run an island search. Now we'll just clean up the bottom with all the flowers and all that stuff. So I'll be back once I get all those supports set in. Okay, so back to supporting this model. And I did some of the flowers down here. You can see there's quite a bit of small supports involved in this. But let's go ahead and do a few so you guys can see them, or how I do them. So it's just Alt and Control to add the micro supports, right? And then we just walk around and get everything held up where it needs to be. All these low points, right? I mean, and I'll remember, keep in mind, Lychee doesn't pick up every single island perfectly all the time. So you might need to adjust where they sit, because they'll miss some. Like, this is an island, look. See, right there. Just keep in mind, you know, like, it's a good guide to where to put them, but not absolute. And can you miss some and still have a nice model? Yeah, totally. Especially the smaller ones that aren't really going to be seen anyways. There we go. So let's pull this up here and support that. So I'm not sure if this is going to work on these flowers, to be honest with you. I'm kind of asking a lot of light supports. But, you know, it might. And it's better than just completely obliterating the model with bigger supports, in my opinion. You know, that's part of supporting, is trying things out. And if it doesn't work, add some more. But if you're trying to minimize it, the support damage that is, sometimes you got to push the limits of what is acceptable in size and see if it will work. Yeah, it's just the nature of doing support work on freaking crazy detailed models. Get my, alright, advanced mode, there we go. Get this up here. Now I'll just keep adding as per how I always do it. Move this here, and then I'm going to give that a secondary. So you can see, you know, this is heavily supported on one side, right? And so for the flexible resins, that's definitely going to be a problem, for sure. So you're going to need to go in and give it some backside help to make sure it stays on the build plate. Because pancakes are bad. Alright, so we're back to this. Bring this here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this whole support a little bit lower, and that'll help open that gap between them up, and then you won't have merging supports. So keep in mind too, if you're trying to print on a color screen printer, you can't do this quite the same. Like this, things like that where they're close, that might come out. But you have a much higher chance of this area between them, between these two supports, filling in and solidifying. Which means you end up with fused supports, and fused supports make everyone unhappy because they ruin your model. So there we go. So we're just going to keep adding some of these in here where required. Drop one there, drop there. So these are also going to add stability, even though really I'm working on islands right now, right? Okay, so that's a problem. But they're going to add stability because they still are connecting it. But this little tip right here is a very fine point of the model, and the point of an elven ear should be as pointy as you can get it, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is drop that tip size down from 0.2, which is already quite small, down to 0.18. Then I'm going to make the base tip slightly larger, give it stability. That won't work on some people's printers. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. It works on mine, so that's where it's going to be. So this, I want to do the same thing on this ear as I did on the other ear, but I have a problem because it's so much further away. So what I'm going to do is run another support like this. And yeah, welcome to crazy leechy dynamic supports sometimes. Bring this down, bring this over, in. Man. So this is, you know, good example of a geometry challenge because of the model's shape itself. I think that's going to print fine, but I want to, I guess, raise this up and move it over a little more. Oh no, too much. So there we go. And we want to get that right there. And then what I'm going to do, which I normally don't, is I'm going to go ahead and take the ball tip, the break point, away. And then we're going to make it even smaller, which for sure won't work for some people. I mean, it just is what it is. You would have to accept, if you can't get that small of a tip to cooperate, just accept that there's going to be some model damage there and try to minimize it. Maybe get more creative with the placement than I did. There we go. Yeah, we'll see if that works. I'm going to give it a little extra chance to do so, though, by running a support to this. There we go. Okay, so where were we at? I got most of the top of the model done. So then you get some craziness like this thing, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use what I do for teeth, the technique I use for teeth. So I'm going to put one kind of a sacrificial anchor here because I can't help it. And that's going to sit right there. And then what we're going to do is add a number of these the same way I did. On the others. But all running off the same support because I don't want a million supports over here to have to tear off. So with these type of things, you have to be careful because it'll pool right there, some of the resin, because it's so vicious, and you'll end up with some fusion occurring. I need to run a support up to here anyways later, so we're going to take this and put it there. Then we're going to take this and move it over there a little bit. There. So, but this is not acceptable, so I'll take that and just run another support to it. Give it some more strength. I'm going to do the same right here. There we go. So that'll fuse to those two and then support that. And this right here, go there. That crazy flower is, I don't know. We'll see if it works. Hopefully it does. So, so that's the thing. A lot of people are like, you know, there's a formula, this or that. I mean, there kind of is, right? I have general rules I follow. But really, it's a creative thing, or you gotta just kind of understand what it is and isn't going to work through looking at how much material is being pulled against the support you're putting, right? Like this, right? That might work in EPAX Hard or Lit Premium. But I don't think it'll work in soft, any sort of soft resin. So just give it a little love. Same here. Drop another one on there. Okay, support challenge. Whee! Nope, we don't want that here. So this is where I like the ball tips, because they can help you get more perpendicular angles when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. We'll see if that works. I don't know if it will. Let's see. That still clears. There we go. Okay. I mean, this might all come out terrible, and I have to flip the model over to get rid of all the damage caused from all these supports. You know, and that's definitely a thing. Sometimes you have to redo it. Sometimes your plan of attack will not work out. Like this is kind of awkward. And I don't know if I really like it, to be honest with you. It's okay, that's fine. Alright, let's finish this one up. So we got that. There we go. So that one's probably not necessary, but, you know, why not, right? Okay, so we got a big tip here. So what I'm going to do is drop a medium. Oh, I forgot something. So this support, the tooth style, where it's all, you know, one central and everything comes off. I'm going to make it a little heavier to make sure that it holds all that stuff. And then you can see the bottom third of the model, except for right here, is basically done. So now this part that I'm looking at right here, her arm, it has some support and strength from being angled already. So I don't need to hold all this weight. All I have to hold the weight of is this and this. And so to do that, I'm going to duplicate, no, before I duplicate it, I'm going to make this 0.3 with a 0.34 tip. Get rid of that one, keep this one. There we go. Make it a little bit smaller. To reduce damage, and then give that. So I think that should totally hold that. Now remember too, in Lychee, a nice little tip is if you want to use a medium, I know there's a medium right there. If I want to use this slightly lighter medium, I can just click on it. And then the next support I draw will also be that, right? See how it held? It held that setting. When I click off, it dropped back to light. But this does not need that big ass medium on it, for sure. But it does need the right angle, and that's not it, because that's a very steep angle on this. Now, if it was like that, and then I move this back to here, there, more directly on the island itself. So our hands will come out beautiful. So there we go with that. Now, that's not a big island, but there's something there to it. So what I'm going to do is do that. I'm sorry, 0.19, and then I'm going to put a little straight secondary tip on there. May or may not fuse with that. So let's move it up a touch. There we go. I think that'll be okay. So there we go. So now we got this flower to do. Okay, so something I actually recently discovered is when you taper these mini supports like that, so the base tip is bigger than the tip. When you go to pull the support away from the model, right, you're freeing it from the supports, they will more likely come off with the support tree. You know what I mean? So when you pull the support away, it's more likely to actually pull this whole thing with it and snap off at the model. When you have this single, you know, when it's like this, when it's a straight, you know, it's even on both ends. When you pull it away, a lot of time it'll stay stuck to the model and rip away from the support. And then you end up with like little support fur all over your model. Nobody wants support fur. There. Close enough. So that'll work for that. I don't believe you that this doesn't need support. Lychee. And remember, supports right here, there's not a single pixel. So if you support here, there's going to be a little bit of leeway in what you can get away with. So there's that. That's supported. And then this is supported. But to support the support, we're going to support that. And then we're going to support that with that. Oh, come on. And we're going to support that with that. So this is supported to support the support, which is supporting the island. I know. It's insanity. Alright, so we got this thing, which we want to make into this size. delete that. So I'm going to use this as a shortcut to get to this support size. Right, boop. And then we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side, which is just tree off that one. And this side, yeah, we'll add a light here. We'll add a light here. And we'll add a light there. And then go check that it's, yeah, that's fine. So that's her arm. Oh man, why? You guys can see the struggle sometimes with artists. They like to do detail, which is great. It just makes certain things more challenging to support, right? Like that. Probably needs to go elsewhere. So, like that. Yeah, that'll work. Why not? Add one more in there. There we go. That's the arm, the top. I want to go back to this size now for this. No, let's do that. There. And then we're going to move this into this column, save us a wee bit of resin, and drop in the secondary. And right here, don't need a lot, just need to cover that island. Same here. Actually move this out to the island itself, and then use a secondary that is 0.18 straight up. There. And go over here, fatten those up a little bit to help them stay connected to the main support when I pull it off the model. Go back to this size again. Come on. Come on. Come. Lychee. There we go. Boop. There we go. And we'll go in and throw in a couple lights on here because it is a meaningfully heavy-ish spot. Ooh, it really is, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to do this actually. Give it more angle. Ooh, yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a secondary support for that. Remember, support to support is okay. And we didn't touch, so when it peels away, it should rip straight free. Alright, so we're almost done with this model now. I'm just putting that there to easily be able to grab it again, because I want to use it on this, right? And these need to be lights. Okay. So see that's a single layer right there, which is why it needs support all the way across. Think about supporting a straight edge, like a perfectly straight edge. You need to support all the way under. And I know this is a curved surface and everything, but it's not when it's printing, right? That's a straight line. needs extra. Alright, where am I at? I'll do this. And then here we are again with another one. Alright. And I don't want to leave ball tips on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use supports to brace supports again. And that. So that should be okay right there. But we'll run one more for insurance right here. And then you got this one. There we go. Maybe run like that. Walk through and add some more on here. Alright, so we got that. Those all look good. I want, this size again. Nope. There we go. And the reason I did that is because I think the angle's too far, so I just wanted to get another kind of strong item in there. This looks like a moderately so what I'm noticing is there's a large expanse from here to here where there's nothing holding on to the model. Now, on a perfectly tuned printer with rigid resin and all that goodness, this would be totally fine. On a less than ideal setup, this would cause a problem. So let's just drop a couple in here. Right? Give it a hand. There we go. That's done. Okay. So now doing this is not my favorite thing. I don't like when I have to reach up high into the model and put supports that extend a long way, right? Like this. They tend to sag and cause failures and support fusion and all that stuff. So try to minimize that as much as you can, but you will not be able to completely avoid it on most models if you're printing them as one-piece models. Normally I try and come at stuff like this from behind, but it just isn't going to happen on this model. I don't need that. That should be totally fine. So when you do have to do this, hold Alt and just click and then click. You keep holding Alt the whole time. It'll create a brace. So this needs, I think, and then Alt, that's a bug. Alt, double click, bug. There we go. And then you're gonna want to look at it and figure out, like, what direction is that gonna get pulled in. So it's gonna get pulled down, so this should add some there. And then maybe, yeah, I'm gonna add one here. In fact, let's exploit the fact that this landed near this one to reinforce that. See? Okay. Nice and smooth. All right, almost done. So the last little bit's going to be just getting these large layer areas supported. Right, like that. And then we'll go like this. And we'll add a support that runs through all three of these. Kind of. Should be enough though. Actually, I don't think it is. There. Yeah. Okay, that's a very small island, but it has this going on nearby. There we go. That's all up, and yeah, tiny island. Ooh, not as tiny of an island. That needs more. There we go. Alright, so that's a model supported, and then I'll do bracings. Okay, and so now the supports are more stable, and then I'll go back and look through where do I need to add more bracing. So I don't like those big extending ones freestanding. See this one right here? Yeah, that's an issue. So we'll go ahead and add this. Add one in here. For this guy, I'm going to add that, and then add that. God, those things I really strongly dislike, but I don't think I have a choice. So what I'm going to do is make this 1.2, help it survive the angle. There. That should get them up there without too much of a problem, but you can always go in and give it some more help. Yeah, I think I like that. I think that's good. So I'm going to slice this up, and then so this is going to go on the IB. I want to print it in Zmud. So what I'm going to do, just to make life easier, is export this as a Dryad full. Save that. And then we're going to save the scene as well, right? So we want to do Dryad full .list. Okay, then we're going to remove that. We're going to import a 3D file, which is Dryad full supported. And so this is one way of scaling, right? So there, blah, blah, blah. And we know that 102 is what I want. So that'll stand it back up to the correct size. Or the other way of doing it is you can open Dryad full. So without doing it as STL, if you want to keep the support separate and slice the lychee file, you need to take 2401 times 102 for 2%. Oops. 24.01 times 1.02. There we go. So 24.5. 24.5. I forgot to unlock it. we go. So scaling, having done the math, I know that this needs to be 24.5. It needs to be unlocked. So 24.5 there. So now we can slice this and throw it on the IB. Oh, look at that. Hollowing was turned on. Unis, IB, Unis, beige. And we're going to do it at 40. Alright, so scaling was off because I forgot there's a decimal. So 24.01 times 1024, 24.58. Right? There we go. So export that for the IB. I'm going to throw it on this USB stick. Dryad. Sure. And there you go. That's a model. Pictures will be up shortly showing how it came out.